So, with this lesson, we're beginning To Kill a Mockingbird, and we're going to look at another one of those moves that an author makes, and that is the pickup line, the very first words that you encounter when you read a novel. These lines have a very specific purpose in a novel. If they're well thought out, they should introduce you to the novel, everything that's going to go in there. And we're going to look at 7 factors with To Kill a Mockingbird that will help you to understand how to read the story. It's also designed to pull you in, to help you to read the novel, to make you want to read the novel, to lure you into doing that. Before we get started on To Kill a Mockingbird, let's take a look at a few opening lines from some books that you might know. This first one's from The Hunger Games. When I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers stretch out, seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover of the mattress. She must have had bad dreams and climbed to bed with her mother. Of course she did. This is the day of the reaping. So with that, we also have a mystery here. We're trying to figure out who is Prim, who is this person that is obviously related to her, and what does this day of the reaping have to do with why she had bad dreams? And in a moment, we're going to dive through 7 different factors here. We're going to look at the words that Suzanne Collins used to describe it. We're going to talk about the narrative presence, multiple other things. Let's take a look at another one here. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stones. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, number 4, Privet Drive, were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Who are these Dursleys? Why are they so interested in becoming normal? And finally, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Notice the very plain nature of this and how much information is left out of this opening statement here. Once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lacey. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. The language is very sparse here. It's not really diving into a lot of information. There was something that happened to them. Not sure what it was, but something did. So again, a mystery that we need to solve. So let's talk about narrative challenges for a second. Anytime that you see this symbol, it means that this element of the story, and there are 7 elements we're going to be looking at here in a moment, will be somewhat challenging in To Kill a Mockingbird. You need to pay close attention to this area to help you understand the novel. All right, so let's dig into the opening paragraph of To Kill a Mockingbird. And here it is. When he was nearly 13, my brother Jim got his arm badly broken at the elbow. When it healed, and Jim's fears of never being able to play football were assuaged, he was seldom self-conscious about his injury. His left arm was somewhat shorter than his right. When he stood or walked, the back of his hand was at right angles to his body, his thumb parallel to his thigh. He couldn't have cared less so long as he could pass and punt. So this presents one of the driving mysteries of To Kill a Mockingbird, and you really won't find this out until we finish the novel. That mystery, of course, is what caused Jim to break his arm. And there's this entire structure of the novel that we have to get through just to figure it out. Now, there's a cadence here. There's a lot of words that are used, big words like assuaged, self-conscious, things like that, that we kind of gives us a little bit of an idea about the way the author is going to be throughout this, or rather the narrator is going to be throughout this story. So let's dig in here to these 7 elements. Number 1, and you're going to have a sheet that you're going to be downloading with this. You'll see it at the very end of this presentation. Style is the first thing I want you to look about. You kind of always know it when you see it. We know that we have a certain style of dress that we wear, and you know what that is when you see it with someone. So with style, how does Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, put some style to her story here? Are the sentences short or long? Is it a simple syntax? Very simple sentences. He went to the market. Or is it very complex with lots of dependent clauses, independent clauses, compound sentences, complex? Is the language very rushed, or is it very leisurely? And then taking a look at it, how many modifiers do we see in there? Do they have a lot of adjectives and adverbs? So I'm going to give you a couple of hints here. We're going to go back and look at this one. for just a minute here. Take a look at her sentences here. When he was nearly 13, my brother Jim got his arm badly broken at the elbow. Slightly complex. The language is not too difficult. So what about the syntax here? We do have a complex sentence. And take a look at it again. When it healed and Jim's fears of never being able to put ball were assuaged, he was seldom self-conscious about his injury. His left arm was somewhat shorter than his right. When he stood or walked, the back of his hand was at right angles to his body, his thumb parallel to his thigh. He couldn't have cared so long as he could pass and punt. There are actually only roughly 4 sentences here, and yet this makes up a very extensive passage. So the syntax is actually fairly complex with this one. Now I'm going to leave it to you to figure out, is this rushed or is it leisurely? Does Harper Lee take her time to talk about something, or does she go straight through the information here? And I think you can pretty much figure this one out on your own. And then I'll let you look at modifiers, adjectives, and adverbs. And I would challenge you a little bit. Try to find some of them when you write it down or type it down into the document. Put down some of the adjectives, put down some of the adverbs on that. Let's take a look at the first one here. When he was nearly 13. That first one is nearly. We have an adjective there, an adverb rather, that kind of describes the fact that, you know what, he's not 13 in this one. He's nearly 13. Why did Harper Lee choose not to just say 12? My brother Jim. So obviously this tells us a little bit about who the narrator, which we'll get to in a minute, my brother. We have a couple of adjectives there. Got his arm badly broken. You see a couple of adverbs and adjectives there. So this gives us a sense of how this is going to read. You can already get some idea that this is going to be a little bit tougher to go through. All right, let's talk about tone. And this is an author's attitude towards his reader. Now, again, tone is something that we'll try to look at as we go through To Kill a Mockingbird. But the best way to think of this is it's the way that you say something towards someone. If you've ever had a parent, guardian, someone like that say, "Don't you take that tone with me," then you get the idea of it. So you could say, "Hey, we're having pizza tonight." Very flat tone. "We're having pizza tonight?" Or, "Hey, we're having pizza tonight." So each one of these, the author will try to tell you some kind of attitude about the subject. So is the author matter of fact about this, or just stating it? Are they being a little bit ironic, sarcastic? Is it kind of sad? That's what the word elegiac means, is sad. There's tons of other tone words out there. So try to figure out, what is the tone of this novel going to be based on what you've read in this first paragraph. Mood. Now this is the atmosphere. You can kind of see this. Scary movies, for example, have a very dark mood to them. You're not sure what's happening. So again on this, and I've made an error here on this document, but the mood could be scary. It could be sad again. It could be funny. It could be sarcastic. And forgive me for the error here. I'll correct that on the actual presentation. Next up, diction. This is a little bit heavier one. What are the words and sentences, and especially the sentence structures, that the author choose? What kind of words are they using in there? Are they very common words? Are they rare? Are they even archaic, no longer used? Are they friendly words? In other words, is it something that you can get, or do they challenge you a little bit? Sentences long or short? Do they vary in length? Are they whole, or does the author speak in fragments? And is that on purpose, or is it accidental? Now, this seems a little bit like style, but this is more about the mechanics of the sentence specifically. To Kill a Mockingbird will have a very specific diction, and it will have a very specific form of the English language. It's more of a Southern Alabaman kind of accent as we read through it, and you'll begin to hear that as we go through. Point of view. This one's pretty easy for you. Which person is this told in? Is it first person, third person? And there's a few stories where it's even told in the second person. So what person is this story told in? This one's pretty straightforward, and I think you can figure it out based on the adjectives used in the opening paragraph. Narrative presence. Now, this one is kind of a little bit deeper about the person. It's more about the perspective from which the story is told, but it's now in depth. How much does the narrator's presence, are you aware that they're in this story? Can you hear their voice, or are they simply invisible? Who is the narrator, and how do they see the story? Now, you should be able to figure this one out pretty easily here in terms of the basics about who the narrator of To Kill a Mockingbird is. In fact, you're going to see that in the very first sentence. And then, what kind of perspective do they see the story? Are they telling the story as it happens, or are they reflecting on it from far away in the future, or maybe just shortly into the future? How are they seeing this story as it goes forward? Time. When and at what pace is the story told? Can you figure out from this opening paragraph in what time period the story's set? How fast does time move here? You may not know this in the first paragraph, and that's okay if you don't. Some first paragraphs give this away, though. And is the story being told in the moment that it happens? All right, that's it. Those are the 7. This is a look at the document that you're going to be using to fill out. And you'll notice on just this first part here, the style, the tone, the mood, and the diction. On the right-hand side, you see an open section there. That's where I want you to look at, try to answer these questions, make some notes about that opening passage. For style, for example, we want to come right in here. And we want to tell about how the author tells the story with those words. What kind of style do they have to their writing? Same deal with tone, mood, diction, so forth, until you've completed all 7. Now, when you are finished up with this, you are going to be submitting this on Canvas. It will need to be through Google Drive. This is one because of the chart that's in here that you cannot copy and paste as a text entry. So the only option that you'll have on this one is to attach that to Google Drive. As always, please let me know if you have questions. Ask me in class or on Canvas. Where this is a brand new assignment this time around, so I want to try to work on any uncertainties or anything that needs to be clarified in here. Thanks, and you'll be working on Chapter 1 of To Kill a Mockingbird next, so follow up with that one once you've finished.